It's time to cook with Susan Beck, and today I will be continuing my series on making homemade soups. You can make a great homemade soup by just going through your kitchen cabinets, refrigerator, freezer, crisper drawers, and seeing what you have. So here are your basic ingredients that you need to make a soup. Today we're going to make a no recipe, look in your fridge and pantry and decide what you have soup. Well, I have pulled out things to make a black bean and rice soup. Let's look at what I have for ingredients. Now this is going to use black beans as my protein along with some leftover corn, tomatoes, and rice. I happen to have some turkey that's already cooked that I'm going to use, but you could easily make this vegetarian and leave that out. I'm going to season with salt, pepper, chili powder, and cilantro, kind of going for that Tex-Mex kind of flavoring. I have a box of vegetable broth, which will make up half of my soup base, and some water. And then I thought some cheese grated on top might be a good topping. Let's get started by draining those black beans. I don't want that liquid. I am going to drain these, and I am also going to run them underwater and rinse them. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that thick sauce that comes on beans. In fact, I'm kind of just learning to eat beans. It's never really been my favorite food, but I'm starting to find some like garbanzo beans and black beans that I don't mind so much. I'm going to use half of this onion here today. Now these are still left from my garden, and I see I've got a little sprouting through the center here that I'm going to remove that, but no need to waste this whole onion. And then I'm going to remove the outer layer that's all papery that I don't want to eat either. The easiest way to dice an onion is to keep that root end attached. And then I'm going to slice through from top to bottom, but not disconnecting it from that root end. Then I'm going to slice it this direction from left to right. And now I'm going to chop down, and I have a perfectly diced onion. I like to saute my onions, so I'm just going to turn this on to medium high. And into my frying pan here, I am going to place a tablespoon of olive oil and some oregano that I froze when I had fresh herbs in my garden. This is my favorite way to save my herbs, is to put them in an ice cube tray, fill the ice cube tray with olive oil, and freeze. It's a great way for sauteing vegetables, whether I'm sauteing for a casserole or soup or just a side dish, and it allows me to use those fresh herbs all year long. So we're going to let that melt a little bit, and then I do like to cook up my raw onions before I throw them into the soup. That's completely up to you on if you'd rather just throw them into the soup. In go our onions. I moved my onions to my back burner to saute. Now, if I was going to put any carrots into this, or some celery or some cabbage into the soup, I'd probably saute that up as well a little bit. All right, while that is sauteing, we're going to put a box of vegetable broth into our soup. And then we're going to put in, that's about 4 cups. And then we're going to put in 4 cups of just water. And then I'm going to add that can of tomatoes. These are tomatoes that I had in my garden, and I'm going to keep all of that liquid. So that'll add at least another cup of liquid to this. When I make soup, I usually make, I don't know, between 8 and 12 cups, and that fits in this soup kettle quite nicely. All right, that's all of our liquids. We're going to go ahead and let that start warming up. And then into there, we're going to add our beans, that leftover corn from supper last night. I've got about 2 cups of turkey here, but you know, if you had less, or if you had some chicken and you just wanted to peel that off the bone and put it in, but put that in as cooked chicken. And then I'm just going to hold off on my rice and save that because I am using minute rice today. If I was using a regular rice that needs longer to cook, I would put that in as well. But I'm going to do this with the minute rice that will cook in just, 5 minutes. Those onions have sauteed up nicely and are much softer now than a raw onion. I'm going to add those to our soup. Now, once again, I'm making a soup that I've really never done before. I once visited somebody who made kind of a Southwest bean and chicken soup, and
without looking any recipes up. I'm just creating this myself today based on that idea that I need some kind of broth, I need some vegetables, I need some protein, and then a grain is nice, which will be that rice. I was like, well, what would go together if I wanted to do a recipe that used beans? What do I have in my fridge? Put together what you want. So as I was doing that, I was thinking about what seasonings would go with these flavors as well. So I decided I'm going to start with that chili powder. Chili powder is a great Tex-Mex flavoring, and I'm going to put in a tablespoon of that to start with. And then I'm going to put in a teaspoon of salt. I just think with that water in there, you just kind of need the salt in soup, I think. But there's some salt alternatives if you prefer to not have salt. And then I am using cilantro because that is another popular spice when you're having salsa and things like that. So in those things go. I've got my pepper grinder here, maybe half a teaspoon or so of pepper. And then we will be tasting this to see if our flavors are strong enough and what we think. I'm going to move this to my back burner and put it on high until it comes to a simmer or low boil, and then turn it down so that it doesn't do anything more than simmer. But it needs a little time to let those flavors meld together. Well, I thought this soup would taste great with a little cheese grated on top. So while our soup is simmering, I'm going to go ahead and get a little cheese ready to go. Any kind of cheese would be fine. I had put it just a little bit into my bowl here, and I just want to taste that with all of my flavors together. You know, I don't say that very often. I'm almost always adding a little more of the seasonings, but I think that's pretty good, just like it is. Be sure to taste yours and decide, do you need a little bit more of something we've already used, or something else out of your cupboard? All right, in goes my minute rice. That will only take, well, 5 minutes to cook, and then we'll be ready to eat. Let's serve up this soup here, and while that's cooling a little bit, we will talk about what we put in there. Remember, we're working with this 5-part system where we're going to choose a broth. Today we used a box of vegetable broth. Then we chose our protein. Our main protein was a can of black beans, but I happened to have some turkey, so I picked a second one and put that in. But leave out that turkey and make this vegetarian. It'll be great. As for vegetables, today I chose onions, tomatoes, and corn. But you know, cabbage would be great in here. Celery would be great in here. Carrots would be great in here. As for grains, today I chose rice. I have 1.5 cups of rice in my, maybe 8 to 10 cups of soup. And for seasoning, I went with chili powder, cilantro, and then my go-tos, I always use some salt and pepper. All right, before we taste the soup, we're going to sprinkle a little cheese on top to garnish it. A few little tortilla chips crunched up would be great. All right, let's see what we think. That's really good. It's like having a little bit of tacos in a soup bowl. I love it. Something I'd not made before. Give it a try. What can you create? For vegetables today, we have corn, we have tomatoes, and we have something I don't remember.